Your pal Al here on a lovely Tuesday, May 14th. Make that 15th afternoon. Quick notes on Game 4 of Spurs Suns Western Conference semifinals, in which the Suns took the game 104-98. If you guys remember, I predicted a 112-103 victory for the Spurs. Unfortunately, that did not happen. Thanks most part to a 32-18 fourth quarter by Phoenix against San Antonio. Now, of course, the big story the day after is the Robert Ory hockey foul, hockey check into the boards of Steve Nash, and the ensuing suspensions. Now, everyone knew that Robert Ory was going to get suspended for at least one game. What everyone didn't know is how were Stoudemire and Diao, who ran off the bench, and this is a great story. I don't know if anyone else caught this, but on the TNT broadcast, while the game was still going on, they had one of their sideline reporters report that the coaching staff for the Suns was actually trying to um, to play up the idea that Diao and Sotomayor were running onto the court not to join the fray and the fracas in the fight between Ori and Nash and Bell, but rather to substitute into the game offense for defense. Now, my personal thoughts on the step on the court rule are that it's a bit static. It needs a little more leeway. It needs an amendment. There needs to be not quite so steadfast rule. And I understand after the brawl in the Palace, or the Indiana Detroit brawl, that that steps need to be taken in order to ensure fan safety and everything, and that's great. I'm all fan safety, being a fan myself, but um, the idea that Stoudemire was simply checking into the game is ridiculous, and I'm glad that the NBA didn't buy into that. Now, that being said, the end result is, of course, that Ori has been suspended for 2 games, will not be in Game 5 or 6, and Sotomayor and DL will be out for Game 5. Now, that leaves the Suns with a lineup of Nash, Bell, James Jones, Marion, and Kurt Thomas, and a very thin, wafer thin, Kate Moss thin, Fiona Apple thin, Sanjaya thin? Well, I don't know. Anyway, it leaves them with a thin bench of Barbosa, Jalen Rose, and Pat Burke. Okay, wow. Well, if Pat Burke's going to beat us, then we don't deserve to get to the championship round. Um, Again, I'd like to reiterate the point that we're not getting anything out of our center position. Alberto had 6 points, 3 rebounds in 20 minutes, and Ori had 0 points, 3 fouls, 5 assists in 12. And then Elson had a whopping 2 points and 2 fouls in 5 minutes of play. Obviously, the Suns play a small ball, and the Spurs do what they can to match up, but it's just a little disconcerting to see what we're getting out of the 5 position. Just my take. Some quick notes on Game 4. Finley hit his first shot, three-pointer, to get the tone started, and this has continued a trend that I've noticed with the Spurs, in which they tend to carry on aging veterans who were once magnificent players in the hopes that they will spark some sort of offense or defensive fortitude for the team. Past nominees include Glenn Robinson, Terry Porter, Mario Ellie to a lesser extent. I believe we had Dominique Wilkins at one point. So, it got me to thinking, who could the Spurs get next year or the year after that, perhaps. Now, I personally, for one, am hoping that we get Steve Nash in about 8 years, or Kevin Garnett in about 4 or 5. But that's just wishful thinking on my part. But you never know the way the Spurs tend to dig up these old bones of players and get jerseys on them. I mean, who's to say Keith Van Horn's not out of the question at this point, or maybe a slim trim 320 Sean Kemp. But seriously, I feel that Damon Stoudemire is the player that the Spurs should consider at some point. Pulling on the roster. I mean, is anyone else like Jacques Vaughn as an option right now? I mean, there was a moment in the game where he had 3 offensive possessions where he decided to go one-on-one and take the shot. Now, I don't know about you guys, but those 3 offensive possessions were worse than Tim Duncan taking the spill, Ginobili getting the cut in the eye. Uh, I mean, I'm trying to think. The last time I felt so horribly abject about what was going on in the game was when Dave Robinson hurt his back in '97. So we're literally talking a decade. And maybe I'm being a bit facetious, but seriously, Jacques Vaughn taking a jumper is not what I feel the Spurs offense should do or ever be. This is the same guy who started, I believe, 0 of 45 in the 2003 season. 0 of 45 in field goal attempts. So, I'm just saying, bring a little Mighty Mouse love. You never know what'll happen. Mike D'Antoni. Mike D'Antoni. And man, I mean, did you see the guy after the Nash foul? This guy is the most animated coach in the NBA, and for my money, there's no one else I'd rather watch on TNT or ABC or any other station, prowling up and down the sideline, blowing his top off, looking like Ron Burgundy. I'm a man, damn it. I'm a man who built the wheel, as my friend Ig would say. Uh, this guy's just become a cartoon character. But hey, more entertainment for the NBA fans and for the general passerby that happens to tune into the Spurs Sun series, which, by the way, is the highest rated and most intriguing series in the NBA right now. It's unfortunate that whoever wins this is going to play Utah. I mean, is anyone looking forward to a Utah Spurs Western Conference Finals and then possibly a Spurs Pistons Finals? Wow. I mean, just, should the NBA fold now? Because they're not going to have anybody watching those games, unfortunately. Um, Now, something that I also noticed for the game was that up until the Robert Horry foul, the Spurs fans at the AT&T Center, at the Singular Center, at the Yahoo Center, at the whatever you want to call it center, SBC, it's all the same thing. They're not very loud. It wasn't until that foul that they got a little rowdy. And the thing is, if they had placed, I was just waiting for TNT to place one of those decibel meters like they did during the Golden State games, which is amazing. 107, 110 decibel level. These are louder than rock concerts. Brilliant. That's why they call it the city, right? I mean, the city. And I'm stealing a bit from Rome here, but the city by the bay. It is a city by a bay, but regardless, San Antonio has a mucky man-made river. Good for us, and it shows in our fans' enthusiasm for the games. I feel that if TNT had thrown up one of those decibel meters during the game, we might have peaked out at about 27. Now, 27 might be a good Wonderlic score for Vince Young or a couple of other NFL prospects, but not good for a fan decibel meter level. Before I ramble on a bit too much, I want to go ahead and throw out my prediction for Game 5. I've felt that both teams have shown and exhibited the fortitude to play through on a road game. Any team can win on the road in this series. I don't feel that either home court has fans that are boisterous enough to really make that much of a difference. No offense, Spurs fans at the AT&T Center. You might want to yell a little more, and sit down and not order so many nachos and beers. But I feel the Spurs can take Game 5. Much like many people have said, I feel who takes Game 5 wins the series. It'll be a close, hard-fought game for at least the first 3 quarters, but in the fourth, the Spurs, with their full roster stands, Ori, will pull through and finish the game 104-92. That's my prediction for Game 5. One last thing I want to touch on before I leave you all for the evening is, does anyone remember Game 1? Game 1 where everyone was saying, look at how much these teams like each other, they're fans of one another, they're so respectful and whatnot. And, Diao is Tony Parker's best man, and yeah, it's all great and everything, but after all the ensuing, dirty team calls and flagrant fouls and suspensions, you have to wonder, this brings me back to a time Uh,